What I'm going to do today is give you what I consider to be the pros of Pathfinder 2nd Edition and the pros of D&D 5th Edition. Oh, baby. By the way, we got a new cat. This is Twitch. He is adorable. And he is bothering me today. He wants to jump up on my keyboard as I'm recording here, and that's not going to work, is it, Twitch? Oh, he's such a big boy. He's a loud purr, too. He's super, super loud. All right, buddy, you're going back down. Don't jump on my keyboard. Go find something to do. Go bite a mouse or something. Anyway, we're going to talk about what each system does well. And the goal here is to give some guidance to folks who may be deciding which system to pick up, or if they want to switch from one to the other. Now, I've played Pathfinder 2 for about 9 months now, both as a player under a few different game masters and game mastering it myself, both at a convention and for my home game. In fact, all of my Pathfinder 2 home games are right here on YouTube if you care to watch them. And I have played and game mastered D&D 5th Edition for 8 or 9 years or so. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while. I mention this because reading a game system's book is not sufficient to give truly meaningful feedback on it. You really need to drive it around a bit, get under the hood and have it break down on you a few times before you have a basis for talking intelligently about it, which is what I'm going to do my best to do today. The advantages of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Number 1, the math of encounter creation is more reliable. That is, calculating the difficulty of various encounters, trivial, easy, moderate, severe, and extreme, actually works. Like, the calculations are accurate, and if something is trivial, it feels trivial. If something is severe, it feels severe, like you could lose this fight. And for me, what I've found is that this makes it easier for the game master, because you're not just throwing together a bunch of monsters and hoping and praying, or adjusting the encounter mid-combat because, oh crap, it's too easy, or holy crap, it's too hard, and the math didn't warn me, and I think I am not alone when I say that guessing at 5th edition encounter difficulty has been an ongoing frustration for me as a game master for that system. There are probably lots of game masters who find that super frustrating, that D&D 5th edition encounter calculator math is just broken and crappy for the most part. Number 2, homebrewing is easier. Monsters, traps, the whole works. The Game Mastery Guide for Pathfinder 2 does an excellent job of laying out the rules. My experience is that homebrewing a monster in Pathfinder 2 is a breeze. The rules are all right there, you just follow them. And in 5th edition, it is a royal pain, though online monster making programs do make this a bit easier. But you don't really need one for Pathfinder 2 because it's so straightforward. Cannot say that about 5th edition. And as a bonus, the rules for creating monsters that the game designers themselves used are what they published in Pathfinder 2. You see, that may seem like, and that's the way it should be, right? Like, if these are the rules that you use when you're designing monsters for your game, developers, that's what you should publish in your game mastery guide. I mean, that makes sense. Obvious common sense, right? However, it is a known fact that the rules Wizards of the Coast designers use for making monsters are not those that are published in the Dungeon Master Guide. There have been views and snippets of a certain special spreadsheet that somebody once saw Mike Merles using, and who knows what else they might be using, but what they put in the Dungeon Master Guide is not what they actually use when creating monsters. It's like they're protecting their secret sauce, or it's like they rushed their product out to hit a certain date and they published things and it was too late to change it. Or who knows what happened, but we did not get the secret sauce. They kept that for themselves and their hamburgers taste better, and that's not fair. Number 3, the rules are better fleshed out. Some will call this crunchy with a negative connotation. What we find in 5th edition is that there are rules that are vague and that they need the game master to make house rules on. And that often results in player discussions and arguments around that. But in Pathfinder 2, they thought about a lot of this big stuff and it's covered in the rules. And that's rather comforting for a game master to just say, it's in the rules, I don't have to hash this out and make a house ruling on it. Now, Pathfinder 2 is not as rules light as 5th edition is. Not that 5th edition is a rules light game by any means, but Pathfinder 2 is a lot less crunchy than 3.5 or Pathfinder 1. It seems to be a pretty good balance between the super crunch and the less crunch that results in ambiguity and rules discussions. And with more fleshed out rules, you often get better gameplay and game mechanics. For instance, the system for poisons and diseases in Pathfinder 2, called Afflictions, is way better than 5th edition's system, and it makes poisons and diseases progress and get worse over time, which is how they should work. A lack of rules can make it harder for a game master to run the game. A lack of rules also means that the game is more game master fiat. In other words, it's up to the game master to decide how something should work. And in practice, when you have a good game master running a game that runs by fiat, you get a good game. But if you have a bad game master running a GM fiat game, then you often get a bad game, because GM fiat means that players are at the mercy of their game masters. Number 4, combat is more tactical. In Pathfinder 2, I find myself using other options than just attacking: demoralize, feint, shove, etc. In 5th edition, usually the best thing to do is just stand there and swing away. That's how we swing our weapons in 5th edition. In Pathfinder 2, buffing and debuffing to get bonuses and added penalties is important. The game as a whole seems more designed for teamwork and not just every character doing their thing and acting independently, which leads to better tactical combat overall. Number 5, 3-action economy speeds up combat. When everything is an action, it prevents the drag that you can find in D&D when a player is scanning their sheet looking for a bonus action. Like, I could use a bonus action. Do I have anything that's a bonus action? Like, is there a possibility for a bonus action? Like, I don't want to waste any of my possible actions, because they want to milk every possible advantage they can on their turn, and I don't blame them. Now, in Pathfinder 2, combats can still take some time. I would not classify them as fast by any means. However, they do seem faster than 5th edition, and the simplicity of 3 actions is very nice. By the way, if you're a Pathfinder 2nd edition or D&D 5e game master looking to reduce your prep time and improve your games, you should check out Lair magazine. Each issue of Lair magazine contains adventure arcs, standalone adventures, traps, puzzles, monsters, encounters, and other game master resources you can drag and drop into your ongoing campaign. Furthermore, Lair magazine adventures are now available on Foundry VTT for both 5th edition and Pathfinder 2. To learn more, check out the link down below. Or if you want to get every single issue of Lair magazine from 2021, in 2 convenient hardcover books or PDFs, you can pick up Lairs and Legends and Loot and Lore on the DM Lair store. These books are stinking massive, super high quality, super awesome, beautiful high quality, and will give you content for years to come. Number 6, the game is viable from level 1 to 20. In 5th edition, most people will agree that the game is really only playable from levels 3 to 10, maybe level 12, and then everything breaks down and falls apart. This is in part due to the math behind the system, in part due to overpowered abilities and spells that just break things, and in part due to underwhelming high-level creatures that just don't challenge characters. Pathfinder 2 seems way better designed so that you can play from level 1 to 20 and everything still works. Admittedly, this is based on what I have heard others tell me, not experience, as I've not played higher levels. However, from what I've seen, the Pathfinder 2 developers really did an exceptionally well job on the math behind the game, so I'm very much inclined to believe what I'm being told. Number 7, character options abound and they are balanced. As a player of Pathfinder 2, you have tons of options for building your character. Ancestries, backgrounds, classes, skills. All the different options truly make each character feel unique. And feats, oh my word. Feats, crazy amounts of feats. Customizability is so amazing in Pathfinder 2. Now, while yes, there are for sure better options and worse options, the balance among them seems pretty decent. You won't have happen what happens in 5th edition. If you build your PC wrong, you might just totally suck, or there are some classes or combos that are insanely powerful compared to others. Another thing in Pathfinder 2 is that multi-classing doesn't suck or create power builds like in 5th edition. There's no more class dipping like you see in 5e. For me personally, Pathfinder 2 fixes all of the frustrations that I've had with 5th edition's multi-classing system, like, Warlock. Everybody dips like 1 to 3 levels of Warlock for the War-Hanging Fruit. Whoever plays a straight Warlock like all the way through? Like nobody. There's no reason to. And somebody in the comments would be like, Luke, I do. Great. You're in the minority. Nobody plays straight Warlock, dude. Number 8. Rules are 100% free on Archives of Nethys. There is no paywall. There is no monthly sub to D&D Beyond. You can quickly search for things during play, find them, and help them run your game better and faster. Flip through books and maybe find something, or you can just type it in Archives of Nethys and boom, there it is. It's pretty darn good. Furthermore, there are character creation tools such as Path Builder that are completely free and contain all of the options, and Paizo isn't like shutting them down and forcing people to go to their own paywall system like D&D Beyond does. It's really kind of cool to have so many free online resources that help you run your Pathfinder 2 game. If you're on a budget, Pathfinder 2 seems to be a clear winner. Wizards of the Coast is striving very hard to take more of our money, not provide things for free like Paizo does. Number 9. Pathfinder 2 is easier for a game master to run. Because of a lot of these things that I've already discussed, better fleshed out rules, reliable encounter difficulties, easy homebrewing, running Pathfinder 2 is easier for a game master than running 5th edition. Take this with a grain of salt though. I mean, I'm an experienced game master, and for me, Pathfinder 2 is easier. There is always a learning curve, of course, but once you get past it, things get easier. With 5th edition, even though I've played it for nearly a decade, there are still things that I'm guessing at and just hoping work, because the system just doesn't support certain things. Like high level play. Last night in a game, my players they're like level 18 now and have access to some crazy spells, and they're looking at these things and they're thinking of using them. And I'm crapping my pants as the game master, like, what am I gonna do if they use that spell to do the thing that they're saying they're going to do? Like literally crapping myself. Well, figuratively, literally crapping myself. Thankfully, they didn't do what they were talking about. There are points with 5th edition, especially at higher levels, that I'm just like, I don't know how to run this game. Like, I don't know even what to do. And here I've been a game master for like forever and have tons of experience with the game system, yet there are still things that come up where I'm just like, dear Lord, help me. By the way, if you're finding this information useful, please give me a thumbs up and share this video with others. One of the best ways you can help game masters and players is by sharing helpful content. The advantages of D&D 5th edition. Okay, I've been dunking on 5th edition a little bit. You could tell it just came out, some of my frustration. So now we're gonna talk about the things that I think 5th edition does really well and that I still enjoy about it. There are lots of things I like about 5th edition. These are some of the things that I think distinguish it as a game system and make it really good. Number 1, bounded accuracy. Okay, so what does bounded accuracy mean? It basically means that there isn't an infinite linear scaling of things like armor class to hit bonuses, damage, and hit points. For example, in 5th edition, armor class sticks to a range of about 12 at the extreme low to a maximum of about 25. You almost never find a monster with an armor class above 25. However, in Pathfinder 2, armor class just keeps going higher and higher as the level of the PCs and monsters increases. There are no upper limits. Now, bounded accuracy gives some distinct advantages to gameplay. First of all, low-level monsters remain viable to be used against higher-level groups. And that is not true at all in Pathfinder 2. If you take a low-level, super low-level monster and put it against a high-level group, it's no contest. You can't even hit them, and the high levels are critting, and it's just obliterated. Like, you can't throw kobolds against CR10 Pathfinder 2 characters. It just doesn't work. In D&D 5th edition, you can. Kobolds are still gonna lose, but it's not super crazy trivial. Well, maybe a little bit, but it's better than... You get where I'm going. And the converse is true as well. When lower level characters go against higher level monsters in 5th edition, they still feel like they're able to do something because the characters can still hit them. They can still inflict some damage. They might still be outclassed and lose, but they won't feel worthless. In Pathfinder 2, because of monster scaling, characters going against high-level monsters that are like way higher than them usually feel completely powerless. The monster armor class is so high the PCs can't even hit them, and the monster attack bonuses are so high that almost every hit is a critical hit. So, In D&D 5th edition, as a game master, I have a lot greater freedom in which monsters I can throw at my players. The challenge rating is important, sure, but bounded accuracy makes things much more forgiving. Pathfinder 2 is not forgiving in this regard. I have to be very careful that I throw the correct creature levels against the PCs, or things could go south very, very fast, potentially leading to an unenjoyable game session. This has actually been one of the things that I've most been trying to wrap my head around and learn in my last several game sessions with my Pathfinder 2 home group, is figuring out the right level and number of creatures to put against my party, and it's been a frustration. I think I figured it out, but it took some practice and doing for me to finally get there. Number 2, the advantage-disadvantage system is easy to use. Not having to count all of the +1s and -1s and +2s and -2s, which can become time consuming and potentially confusing, is really cool. It's just advantage or disadvantage. That's all there is to it. It minimizes your mental math and it speeds up gameplay. Number 3, character creation is easy. Fewer options when creating your character means it is an easier time to create your character. You're not sitting there trying to figure out all the different options to pick the ones and the analysis paralysis stuff. There are fewer choices, it's easier to choose what you want. It's like going to a restaurant where there's like 5 pages to the menu. You're like, oh my word, what am I gonna pick? Your classic Chinese restaurant, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many options, I don't know what to get. Whereas you go to some place where it's like, oh man, it's a burger joint. Like Five Guys, for instance. You go to Five Guys Burger and Fries, like if you can't figure out what you want, dang, the menu's so simple, you know? Also, leveling up in D&D 5th edition is easier and faster because of the fewer options. There's not very much of this level up paralysis where you just can't decide what you're going to pick. Also, there really isn't a need to plan your character from level 1 to 20 before you start playing. In other games, players often do this because otherwise they might make a mistake and miss out on an option at X level that has certain requirements, prerequisites that must be taken at earlier levels. The bottom line is that 5th edition character creation is very new player friendly, whereas Pathfinder 2 character creation is far more complex. Number 4, the massive player base. Since so many people play 5th edition, finding a game generally isn't that hard, though your mileage may vary, of course. And if you're a game master, getting together players is usually really easy for D&D 5th edition. I put up a game posting and like just people flocking, beating down the door. I'll play, I'll play, I'll play. Now, this is a benefit that cannot be understated. If there is X game system you want to play, but you can't find anyone who plays it or wants to play it, you're just out of luck. Now, yes, Pathfinder 2 does have a large player base, so if you want to play Pathfinder 2, chances are you're gonna not have any trouble with that. However, the 5e player base is much larger. That's just a simple fact. Now, of course, if you're playing online, then finding players for either of the games is probably not going to be that hard. If you're doing it in person, then it becomes more challenging, and you all know that I think that playing in person is way more fun than playing online. Number 5. D&D 5th edition is easier to pick up for players new to the hobby. For various reasons, ease of character creation, advantage-disadvantage system, slightly less crunchy rules, D&D 5th edition is easier for new players who have never played a tabletop role-playing game to get into the hobby. I have introduced multitudes of new players to D&D 5th edition over the years, and it's really not that hard. Recently at a convention, I was introducing Pathfinder 2 to new players, and it was more challenging than if I had been introducing 5th edition. It wasn't crazy hard, and they'd all played 5th edition D&D before, so they kind of picked up and we were fine. But it was more challenging, that's just a simple fact. There is a saying that I have heard quite a bit, and it goes along these lines. D&D 5th edition is easier to play, Pathfinder 2 is easier to game master. And I think there's probably a lot of truth in that statement. Number 6, the adventuring day mechanic. D&D 5th edition game design mechanics tell the game master roughly how many encounters a group of characters should be able to handle in a day before they need to go rest and recover resources, such as spell slots. For me, this makes designing adventures easier as a game master. Now, yes, the flawed encounter design math and messed up challenge rating system math do throw a wrench into the adventuring day mechanic, but the fact there is that it exists and it does mostly work for levels like 3 through 12. However, Pathfinder 2 doesn't have this, and it can make designing adventures more challenging. I have found that I have basically two options. One, I design the adventure and not really care how many times the players take 30 minutes to 1 hour breaks to get all healed up, or leave the dungeon to go rest and get their spell slots back. Or two, I maybe only have 1 or 2 moderate or severe encounters, and then everything else in the adventure is trivial and low difficulty. They should mostly ensure that at least I don't need to leave the dungeon to get spell slots back. Personally, I'm not actually sure which I prefer more. 5th edition's adventuring day mechanic or Pathfinder 2's lack of one. Having the mechanic does give you guidance on how many encounters to throw in your dungeon, yes, but then as a game master, I feel like I'm in this resource depletion game and required to wear my players down before the fight with the big bad. The beauty of the Pathfinder 2 system is that I worry less about wearing PCs down. I can just have a severe encounter and know that it will be challenging even if they have full resources. And when you throw in the issue with 5th edition's challenge rating and encounter difficulty systems not really working that well mathematically, we're probably at an impasse. Now, I really love both game systems. I think D&D 5th edition is amazing. I like Pathfinder 2. I enjoy playing both of them. But that's just what I think about Pathfinder 2 and D&D 5th edition. What do you think? Let us know down in the comments. And if you'd like to get loads of GM resources for your Pathfinder 2 or 5e game, don't forget to check out Lair magazine or Layers of Legends and Loot and Lore at the links below. Now, if you've been trying out new game systems recently, or you plan to, I have a critical message for you right here. Something you need to know. And until next time, happy game mastering.